Carlsbad. People, Purpose, and Impact. An essential podcast for those who live, work, visit, and play in Carlsbad.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Brett Schanzenbach. I am the president and CEO of the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, and I am your host this afternoon, and I'm very excited to have with me two guests today. I have Polly Yu and Tom Hersant. I think I said it right.
You did.
Okay. And Tom is the president, and Polly is a board member for Carlsbad Sister City Ambassadors. Good afternoon, guys.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's great to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Indeed,
Thank
our
you.
pleasure and privilege.
So Carlsbad Sister City Ambassadors. So this whole program of sister cities has quite a cool history. I mean, it goes back to the 50s and President Eisenhower. Why don't you guys walk us through a little bit about how sister cities came about?
Well, the world trauma of World War II ended in 1945. And I'll get back to that in a moment about our connection with Futsu. It's very important.
Yeah.
But President Eisenhower, then general, knew better than anyone what the devastation was and also the politics of world politics.
Yeah.
So he said in a White House conference in 1956, if I may quote,
Yes, please.
two deeply held convictions unite us in common purpose. First is our belief in effective and responsive local government as a principal bulwark of freedom. Second is our faith in the great promise of people-to-people and sister city affiliations in helping build the solid structure of world peace.
Wow.
Yes. So he started the ball rolling, which is a bad analogy because there's no balls involved, other than Sisyphus trying to push that ball uphill for world peace.
Yeah.
It seems to be a never-ending story. And with that, Sister City International came into existence. There are now, Polly, do you know how many Sister City participants there are in the United States?
Well, I think we have all total over 400 cities in the world. Yeah.
In the world.
Okay.
And Polly, you're a board member with Carlsbad Sister City, but you're also a board member on the international organization.
Right.
And that also goes by Sister City?
Yeah, Sister City International.
International.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
which
wonderful.
based in Washington, D.C.
Okay, wonderful. And then locally, here in Carlsbad, it looks like from what my research was that approximately 1988, the Carlsbad City Council got involved with the program. Is that fair?
That is more than fair. That is accurate.
All right, very good. Very exciting. So I was on the website, and it talks about that the mission of Carlsbad Sister City Ambassadors is to create active and meaningful connections between Carlsbad and internationally dispersed communities. Why don't you guys walk us through that a little bit? Unpack that for me.
Okay. Well, our two of those internationally dispersed, there's one in Japan and one in Czechia,
Yeah.
But we're also part of an umbrella group called the Southern California Sister Cities.
Okay.
And our current president is out of Anaheim University. There we have hundreds of cities just in the Southern California counties
Oh,
alone.
nice.
So we are part of that internationally dispersed connection.
Yeah.
But if I may get to our particular one again, our first one, as you were mentioning, it started in 88 and culminated in 89 with the appointment of what they then called a Sister City Committee. It was under the city. It had city funding and city staff support. We had a contact from a man going back to 1945, Mr. Fujimura, who was then with an attaché, I believe, out of either Germany or Switzerland. He had met Hitler and other people in the German side, and he personally saw that they were on the wrong side, and this was needed to stop. And at personal risk, he on the side worked with John Foster Dulles. Allen Dulles was John Foster Dulles' brother. Allen was then head of what became the CIA, and he tried to bring an end to World War II, and it happened anyway, which gets to August 6th, the atomic bomb explosion in Hiroshima, a date to remember. Later on in our podcast, we'll touch on August 6th. So Mr. Fujimura, so impressed with his courage and his commitment to the right thing, Alan Dulles. That Alan says, Japan is going to need a lot of rebuilding, and we would like to support you, a man of such character, in creating a company that will help service our needs and Japan's needs. And because you are such a great soul, you should name that company after the greatest planet, Jupiter.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Fujimura, being a humble man, said, well, that's a pretty big name. Cannot say no to such a fine person suggesting this. And instead of Jupiter, he changed it to Jupiter, E-R.
Okay.
And that business still is thriving in both
nice.
the South LA area, Anaheim area, and also in Futsu, Japan.
I saw that on your website that he was, but I didn't. And I read it a couple times, and maybe I was reading too quickly. So I was like, okay, he's got this company in Futsu, Japan, and here in like Anaheim area or whatever. How did it become part of Carlsbad's connection then? How did he connect Carlsbad to Futsu?
He fell in love with Carlsbad. He would come down here.
I mean, honestly, right?
Right.
What's not to love? But
Well, you're right. Are you speaking to the choir? Yes, you are. He met Bud Lewis, and they got to talking, and our good man Bud and our good man Mr. Fujimura hit it off, and he said, I would like to have this little city connect with my little city of Futsu, which was his hometown.
yeah,
There was the connection.
wow. So just from him visiting here is
Yeah.
how he fell in love with it? Okay. And I guess by seeing that his companies were based up in Orange County, I guess I assumed he lived up there, but is that okay? So he would visit Carlsbad, and then through that, he falls in love with Carlsbad and decides we need to have a sister city program that connects Carlsbad back to Futsu. And that started then with that initial thing back in the late 80s?
Correct.
Okay. So Carlsbad gets connected to Futsu back in the late 80s, and having known Polly for a few years, my recollection is there's been trips and there's been activity. Tell us what some of the activities that have happened over the years between Carlsbad and Futsu.
Well, I think one of the signature program is the Youth Ambassador program, which we actually bring our youth, our student, to visit, our sister city in Fuju through Homestay, school exchange. And actually, I think last time we also visit their business. And the other good thing is one of our key of sister city goal is diplomacy, because we want the kid to really learn what is the, foreign diplomacy. Therefore, we bring them to meet the mayor of Fuju. And we also visit our U.S. embassy in Tokyo, because that is also important. We want our youth to know what our government is doing, in other country for us. Yeah.
That's tremendous. And so over the years, how many times have students actually gone over?
How many trips?
Well, I don't know before my time, which was 1,000 years ago. But during my time, I've been part of 2 delegations of students over there as a chaperone. And just to expand a little bit upon what Polly said, we also give them very good exposure to the culture of Japan.
Sure.
And take them to Kyoto, the ancient capital, and out into the countryside of Futsu, which is a pretty rural community. Monkeys are about there. I mean, it's a real taste of the true Japan. And they homestay.
Yeah, homestay. Right.
So important for
Yes.
citizen-to-citizen connection, lifelong connections.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then have we here in Carlsbad been able to host any students or folks coming over here from Futsu?
Yes.
Yes.
Several times.
Big nod of head several times.
Yeah, podcasts don't do well with nods.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
So several times. Wonderful. And I'm assuming you kind of do some of the same, like they would stay in homes here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably we will outreach to a lot of family, which if they want to experience, right, or do a citizen diplomacy,
Yeah.
that will be a good opportunity,
As a
host our Japanese student.
which our friends in Futsu have told us is going to be able to start up again next year.
Oh, wonderful.
So they'll be sending students again. And if anybody is interested in hosting these lovely students, oh my gosh, the word lovely should be in all caps and italicized, then please go to our website, carlsbadambassadors.org, and up there you'll see a spot where you can you can volunteer for our bell ringing, which we'll talk to a little bit later.
Yes.
But also we'll use that information to contact you about possible homestays next year.
Oh, that's fantastic. So just again, for the listening audience to be aware, how long would they typically be hosting someone, and what is the age, and is it just, do you host one or do you host multiple, or how does that work?
Yeah, the length will be like between 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
Yes, and the student age usually like high school age, which is like grade 9 to 12. Yeah.
Perfect. And you typically host one, or do you host a couple, or?
Typically one.
Typically one. Okay.
We've had some times where, because of a shortage of homes,
Sure.
we've had two,
Yeah.
but typically one.
Very nice. Okay, we're going to take a brief pause. We've been talking to Polly Yu and Tom Hersant from Carlsbad Sister City Ambassadors. When we come back, we're going to talk about how they adapted a little bit during COVID, their upcoming bell ringing ceremony, and our other sister city. We will be right back. So I know, Polly, that you guys switched to Zoom during COVID to keep some interaction going with this program. Tell us, either of you, how that worked out, and you know, what kinds of things you guys were able to accomplish during that whole lockdown.
Since I think in 2020, 2021, and I think the two most successful program we did is a robotic exchange between Carlsbad High School and high school in China, Nanjing.
That's
Yes,
fantastic.
and the student from Carlsbad, I was so amazed. They are very good. They planned the whole agenda. They come up with a very good 5 weeks exchange, and then they kind of lead and mentor the student in China. And both students learn, because when I asked our Carlsbad student, they said they really learned the hardware part from China, which they were amazed also. But if we asked the student in China, they would say, oh, they really learned a lot about software skill from our student.
Oh, that's
therefore
wonderful.
it's a great exchange. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I'd like to bring up you have a very unique event that I know you did last year in 2021, I believe, and I think it's coming up here again. I'm pretty sure here again this summer, called Ringing of Your Peace Bells. Why don't you guys tell us about how that started and the significance of it?
Last year was the 75th year after the atomic bombing in Hiroshima. And we had a international celebration that we were one part of, where we rang the peace bell 75 times. Each person who wanted to participate in this virtual event got their own bell and had their own home. They would ring it around the world all at the same time.
Wow.
To celebrate 75 years of peace.
That's amazing.
And we had local politicians and national ones there and here speaking and participating, as well as our citizens. Well, with what's happening with Mr. Putin's adventures, peace is so important and prominent, even more so now, it seems.
Yeah.
So we're bringing it this year also, the same day, on August 5th our time, August 6th their time. And we'll please invite everybody to register on our website, carlsbadambassadors.org, at the top of our homepage. And we will send you the details about some places you can get your own bells, if you don't have them already, how we plan to organize this, and the timing of it. So please, carlsbadambassadors.org.
That's wonderful. So August 5th, this year, what is August 5th? What day of the week is that?
Friday.
It's a Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
So August 5th, and then what time does it?
5 p.m. our time.
5 p.m. our
which
time.
will become 9 o'clock morning.
9 o'clock
August
in the morning
6th in Japan.
In Japan. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's quite a span. But that works though. I mean, afternoon
Yes.
for us, morning for
Yeah,
them. It's not
that's
like
right.
it's not like the middle of the night for either one of us or something. So
No.
so that's great. And it'll, of course, obviously it's a virtual event, and so people from far and wide can participate.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
That's
Definitely.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's probably one of the silver linings of COVID. We all got a lot more comfortable with that form of connection and interaction. And granted, none of us wants that to be the only way we connect and interact. But it is something that we're all a lot more comfortable with, and it does provide certain opportunities that wouldn't if
Yes.
if we didn't have it. So.
True.
So we have another city that Carlsbad is connected to. I'm going to try to say it correctly, but I'm already afraid I'm going to butcher it. Karlovy Vary, Czech Republic.
By golly, you're pretty darn close.
Okay.
But I must quickly say I cannot criticize you because I just returned from Karlovy Vary, as I pronounce it, this last week after their annual festive opening of the spa season. And I heard the locals, pronounce it two different ways.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
you were probably right in there.
We get a pass then.
Yeah.
Karlovy Vary, Czech Republic. And you told me, and I think you should tell when we were off mic, when you told me how it really translates is
Charles's Bath.
Charles's Bath.
What on earth does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, allow me to take all of us back as we close our minds and swirl into the cosmos to around the 1500s with Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV. Well, Charles had the headquarters of the Holy Roman Empire in Prague. And so he had a hitch in his get-along of some kind. And one day he's out on a hunting expedition. And that's not a sudden thing that an emperor does with all of his entourage. And that group goes into a valley, and they're after a deer, as the myth, maybe history goes.
The legend.
The legend is even better. And he goes into this river, and it's a hot river. It's a thermal river. And so this thermal river is fed by volcanic waters that come up. And oh my goodness, he pauses. He drinks the mineral waters. He bathes in the mineral waters. He does it more and more and more. And his get along is better. The hitch is gone.
It's
and every
healing
time,
waters.
Lo and behold. So that was Karlovy, is Czech for, in German, Karl, which means Charles.
Okay.
And Vary is their word for hot waters or baths, which in German is Bad. So you put the Charles and the Bad, Carlsbad, is what it was called for hundreds and hundreds of years, with the C. Then
C,
it became spelled with a K, and sometimes alternating. And now when the Czech Republic got that area of Bohemia, it's always been Bohemia,
Sure.
but politically the alignments change. They said, well, that is, in our language, Karlovy Vary.
So it's back to that instead of Carlsbad
Right.
anymore. Well,
And so it's a healing city. And now
That's
let me just do a little
wonderful.
segue,
Yeah.
if we've got time,
Of course.
to how it happened with us. So Fraser's Well, down there on PCH and a little bit north of Carlsbad Village Drive, where the statue's in front and all the water you can get, the alkaline water. When Fraser, Captain John Fraser, dug that well for agricultural purposes, he had a big piece of land. He had the water tested at two places, one in Chicago and one in New York. And they both came back with a great mineral profile. And they said, hey, you know what? This is a lot like well number 9 in Carlsbad, Bohemia. And he says, oh, really? Yes, and all the wealthy people, the aristocrats, go there to heal and get better. Oh, really? Says Captain Fraser. Within a
he's
year.
already got the wheels are turning in his head.
Oh, man, I can still hear the echo of the grinding as that's going on. And lo and behold, he had one or two other people get together to form the Carlsbad Land Company.
Yeah.
They named it Carlsbad Land Company. And it's because his water was the same. It's an alkaline, principally alkaline water, and it's a healing water, and that's where we got our name.
So what you're saying is Carlsbad was founded with a tourism mindset from the get-go.
Yes, we can say that.
He wanted to attract people right out the gate.
You are right on.
And he knew that the name would connect back to this wonderful place over there. Well, that's fantastic. So our water became the thing that defined our name for our community.
Yes.
And of course, the water is still associated with our community in a strong way, which is wonderful. So we have this connection now as a sister city with Karlovy. And how do we have activities with them the same as we do with Futsu?
We do. We have had students go there, and their students come here, homestay in both cases.
Wonderful.
And we've also, one of the things, besides that nice cultural exposure, we also sent some students to attend the very important Carlsbad Film Festival in Karlovy Vary.
Oh,
well, actually,
nice.
it's the Karlovy Vary Film Festival now, which is, some people say there's Cannes, there's Berlin, and then there's Karlovy Vary. It's kind of like one of the top three there. It's been going
wow.
on for decades and decades. I
That's
think it took a
fantastic.
pause during the Soviet occupation.
Sure.
But I'm going to take that little just to skip back on an important thing I forgot about Karlovy Vary establishing themselves.
Okay.
We got our name from them.
Yes.
But when the Velvet Revolution took place in December of 1989, the
Meaning the fall of communism? Is that what you-
in particular,
Yeah.
the Berlin Wall came
Yes,
cracked
okay.
open, and these countries decided, we can now talk to the world.
Sure.
There was a man within a month who lived in Carlsbad, Bohemia, Karlovy Vary. His name is Jiri, which they pronounce not Jiri, but Iji.
Okay.
Sloch. And this young man got like 75 signatures of other people interested in learning about Carlsbad in America. Now, they found a couple of Carlsbads in
Sure.
America.
New Mexico and here.
And lo and behold, our man Bud Lewis got the letter. He responded. And we became, due to this young man's enthusiasm for learning what the world looks like outside of that Iron Curtain which came down,
Yeah.
we became connected.
Well, that's a great story. So
Yeah.
with the fall of communism and the
Right.
reconnection to the rest of civilization, we started a connection. So now, as you said, we've had students come back and forth, just like we've had with Futsu. So that's wonderful. Is there anything on the horizon to maybe doing something with them in the near future? Student-wise, or?
We have received a seed that has been planted. What I mean by that is when I was there last week, by the way, just a little pitch, if I can, for
Yeah.
Karlovy Vary. The first week in May every year, they have what they call the festive opening of the spa season.
Okay.
Their big thing is tourism.
Sure.
Their big thing is the healing waters.
Sounds familiar.
And there's also a healing water called a beverage of Bekarovka,
Okay.
which was made by Dr. Joseph Becker. He came there to help them. The water heals you, yes, but you add some secret herbs and spices with a lot of alcohol and you'll feel even better.
I bet you will.
That's Bekarovka, which you can get, which I have in my refrigerator at home, and you can get at Bevmo. So anyhow, that connection then with the healing waters and the beverages is celebrated with the opening of that spa season each year in the first week of May. They have, oh my goodness sakes, all sorts of festival events happening in this beautiful, beautiful city. Go to our website, carlsbadambassadors.org, and see some of the pictures. Our mayor, current mayor, Matt Hall, has called it the most beautiful city in Europe. And he and his wife were just knocked over impressed by the hospitality and the beauty of that place.
Oh, it's
so
wonderful.
that festive opening the first week of May is when we like to bring people. We brought
Yeah.
adults there too. So the seed, finally back to my point, my mind wanders a lot. Sharp things, sparkly things, it wanders a lot. When I was there this time, I met the Sister City delegation from Eilat in Israel, which is one of the sister cities for Karlovy Vary. And they said, oh, yes, we have a student exchange, and I'd be happy to share with you the names of the people here in Karlovy Vary that we work with student exchanges. Because the one that we had before, she moved to Prague.
Sure.
And so we lost that connection.
Sure.
So, yes, the seed is planted, and we
All right.
definitely want to do that again.
Getting some renewed connections
Yes.
to reestablish that. Well, that's wonderful.
Right.
If people want to find out more, I know you've mentioned it once or twice, about the organization and activities, how to host a student, how to get engaged, The website is carlsbadambassadors.org. Is that correct?
That is correct.
carlsbadambassadors.org. Wonderful. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet? I don't want to miss anything. There's so much richness here. Is there anything you want to make sure that the public, just imagine somebody's hearing about the Sister City program for the very first time. Anything we want to make sure and include?
Thank you for that opening.
You're welcome.
We have had for some time, since our edition of Carlsbad, only 2 sister cities. Carlsbad has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And what the City Council has done in designating us as the nonprofit responsible to manage the 2 sister city relationships is they said, hey, if you want to add other sister cities, there just needs to be a community of interest here to support it. That's a pretty broad opportunity.
Sure.
And what we do with sister cities is not just this peace effort, but it is the exposing Carlsbad to the world and the world to Carlsbad.
Yes.
So if there's any community of interest, like I would think golfing, biotech, anybody else that wants us to facilitate local government connections, we can get them mayor to mayor instead of filtering down through all the levels of national, international, blah, blah. You want to talk to Joe or Jane Schmo, and they're the mayor or the mayoress, we can definitely facilitate that.
That's fantastic.
And we're looking for more sister cities. So please just go to that Peace Bell thing, and that's our source of information, and we'll follow up. We'd love to.
There you go, folks. You heard it here. Looking for more sister cities to connect Carlsbad to the world. So if you have one that you're particularly connected or fond of and want to put some sweat equity into this, they would love to chat with you. So,
and we'll also greatly appreciate their energy on our board in that respect.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Anybody who wants to do international connections like that and has got a great idea, please talk to me, and I'd love to interview you for our board.
Well, that's wonderful. I know Polly's been a fantastic ambassador for the Carlsbad Sister City Ambassadors.
Indeed.
And we're fortunate that she stays very engaged with us here at the Chamber, and we appreciate that. So thank you both for taking the time to come down here, kind of open up these fun stories, the history of it, and thanks for what you do. As you pointed out, we need these peace initiatives right now as bad as ever.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you, Brett.
Thanks for joining us on our Carlsbad People, Purpose, and Impact podcast today. If you enjoyed it, please hit the follow button on wherever you get your audio. And please tell a friend. We would love to hear your feedback, which you can share at carlsbadpodcast.com. You can leave us a review, ask a question, or leave an audio comment, which we can play on the show in the future. And that's all we have for today. Can't wait to see you next time on Carlsbad People, Purpose, and Impact. And remember, share some kindness today. It's free, creates goodwill, and makes you feel great.